Alright, we're gonna re-record this because first time was super quiet, so hopefully this is super noisy. I hope it does not blow out your eardrums. Alright, creating the Constitution, that is what we are looking at today, tonight, whenever you're watching. So, what was the problems? Well, we've mentioned this before. The Articles of Confederation are the worst. And according to George Washington, the biggest problem was it had no money. Since the United States couldn't raise any taxes, then they were broke. They couldn't pay off any debts, which is bad because you want to pay off your debts. On the right, you see a map of the Mediterranean. There were pirates that were operating in the northern coast, and they were seizing ships. They would stop seizing ships if you paid them bribes. However, since the United States is broke, they can't pay bribes. So their trade is being affected. Now the United States can't even make money. And the biggest problem, or the culmination of problems, was what happens on the left, which was Shay's Rebellion. Shay's Rebellion, it occurs in western Massachusetts, and it's a group of farmers that are angry. They're angry because they aren't receiving their pay from the Revolutionary War that they were promised. They're angry because taxes are becoming super high. Massachusetts is trying to pay off its own debts. Individual states have their own debts, not just the federal government. So Massachusetts raises taxes on its citizens immensely. Some citizens are taxed 50% of their income. So these farmers are saying we can't make money. We're not even getting the money we should make. So they rise up. They take up arms and they seize a armory in Springfield, Massachusetts. The United States government has no money. They can't raise troops. They don't know what to do. Eventually, Shay's Rebellion gets put down because individual private business owners in Boston raise enough money that they can send in a militia to stop Shay's Rebellion from happening. But this scares people. They say, well, we can't even operate, we can't even govern our own borders. So we need to make a change. So delegates from all of the colonies, they end up meeting in February of 1787 for the Constitutional Convention. And their idea is that they want to revise to fix the Articles of Confederation. When they sit down to say, all right, what are we going to change, they realize they have to make so many changes that they're just going to write something. And what all the representatives agreed on is that they wanted a republic, where people elect representatives to run the country. They also wanted to keep this idea of federalism, where the central government has powers, but states also have their own powers. So having a republic and having federalism are big. Some other ideas that they want, we have those first two out of the way. Checks and balances. They're afraid that they're going to have something with a king again, where there's one person making all the rules. So checks and balances is there's branches of government. And each branch of government has a different role, but it also can ensure that the others are doing their jobs. They want a limited government, that a government can't interfere with your personal rights. Separation of powers, that when you have these branches, each one has a different power. That they're not all fighting, like this is your power and no one else has this power. And there's also this idea that there's popular sovereignty. That this sovereignty is the ability to govern yourself. And you want to be able to make your own decisions without anyone telling you what to do. Of course, trying to create a country is difficult, and it creates a lot of people arguing. They have issues with plans for how to run a country. The first main plan, though, of what's going to work is called the Virginia Plan. And the Virginia Plan says that we should have 2 houses, and each house would have different abilities in this legislature. So legislature is what is making laws. So they wanted bicameral legislature, when there's 2 houses that are making laws. And the Virginia Plan said that representatives should be selected by population. So large states who had a lot of people could have a great deal of sway when it came to making laws. They also wanted 3 branches of government. You have a legislative that makes laws, judicial, which is the Supreme Court, that would ensure that laws were followed or that were legal in the first place, and the executive branch, which is the president, who's the person that's running. because it would allow for these checks and balances. Opposed to Virginia is the New Jersey plan. And New Jersey plan, since New Jersey is a smaller state, they are saying, hold on, we want equal representation. They only wanted one house in the legislature. So there becomes a great division between large states and small states as to how much representation there should be. And what happens? Well, we have a compromise. The Great Compromise, it's wonderful, it's great, thus the name. There's, ends up being 2 houses. One house was proportional to state, so if you had more people in your state, you had more representatives, which is today's House of Representatives. And one house has equal representation, which is the Senate. So, it's called bicameral legislature. And these are the people that are making laws. So, currently, we have this. And it also agreed that we would have this legislature, a judicial, which is the Supreme Court, and it said we should have a president. The question, though, arises for many of population. Now we have a House of Representatives, which is for population, but what about slaves? Now, slaves are an issue because many people don't consider slaves people. They are considered property. So northern states are saying, well, you can't count slaves as people because they're not. You don't think of them as people. And the southerners are saying, no. They're definitely people. But we own them. It makes sense, right? And of course the northerners say, no, that doesn't make any sense at all. So this becomes a big sticking point. So what happens? Well, we have another compromise, and it's called the Three-Fifths Compromise. The northerners win because slaves aren't counted as a full person. The southerners win because slaves are counted. They are counted. But slaves are counted as 3/5 of a person. So for every, what is that? 3 people, 5 people, it is, or every 5 slaves counts as 3 people. And this allows the southerners to have more representatives than it would have had slaves not been counted as people at all. So after the Great Compromise and the Three-Fifths Compromise are made, then the United States has a constitution. However, just because they have a constitution doesn't mean it's law yet. They have to submit it to states for approval. They have to be submitted for ratification. And ratification is that states are approving. They're saying, all right, this is a good idea of how to run the country. And when they get sent out, a lot of states are saying, well, we have this very powerful government. How do we know that our rights as citizens will be protected? What are you ensuring that will protect us as people? And this is where we get to, as we will next week, to the Bill of Rights. But we're not going to get there.